Greetings and salutations. This is Captain J. Within Starfield, there are many random encounters within the game that have lore associated with them. So I wanted to do a video here on one of the derelict ships that you may encounter when roaming around in the Starfield. These derelict ship encounters, they usually have some sort of tragedy or accident that's gone down, and there's usually some data slates and other things laying around that explain or at least hint at what may have happened to the crew. So today we've run into a Derelict Nebula ship. So let's go ahead and dock and board and see what we've got. So we get on board, the alarm's blaring. Usually indicates something has gone terribly wrong. We immediately run into some hostile bots. So what you want to do, you really want to loot the bodies to find the clues, typically. Sometimes the clues are laying around, but you've got to look around on the bodies and see if you can find any logs or data slates. Resistance seems to be pretty small so far. So here we've got Riley, poor soul, who has a slate, so let's take a look. Riley says, I've always had trouble making new friends. In school, they used to call me QWERTY because I needed a computer to express myself. And when I did talk, I'd say something awkward, and people would laugh. People think the only time I'm funny is when I don't mean to be. Well, I disagree. It's not that I don't have a sense of humor. I'm just not used to using my outside voice. I get anxious in big crowds and just clam up. So I've been trying to practice by talking to one of the Model A's on board, who I've affectionately named QWERTY. Why? Because robots are funny even when they don't mean to be, just like me. But ever since the spacer attack, I feel like something's changed. I can't quite put my finger on why, but it's like every robot on this ship is stuck in combat mode, and they're constantly on alert. QWERTY won't talk to me about casual things, and what's worse, he'll sometimes forget my name. I've talked to May about it, and she said I shouldn't worry. Robots do 3D facial scanning, vocal recognition, and full-body biometric data scanning, and cross-reference it with the crew database. I joked that maybe QWERTY should buy me a drink first, and May laughed. I was so happy that I made a joke in person. I ran to QWERTY to tell him the news, but he didn't even care. He just wanted to patrol the deck. Something is still off. Sounds like maybe the robots have gone rogue. Let's keep roaming around and see what we can find here. Well, here we find poor Sybil May's slate. And she says, ever since that dust-up with the spacers near Vessel 2, the robots on the ship have been acting strangely. I've chided the captain in the past about not running periodic OS checks, but we've recently completed a firmware update, so I don't think it's that. Several of the crew members are claiming the robots will on occasion deny them access to the bunks, kitchen, and cockpit, asking them if they have clearance. I've noted that we're dealing with decommissioned UC Navy models, and some sort of remnant program could be rearing its ugly head. The start of the errant behavior coincides with the spacer attack, in which the robots followed admirably. The timing of it can't be ignored. The likelihood of a rogue robot situation seems likely. Oh, that guy I thought it was going to kill me. So here we have Devin Barkley's slate. And he says, for the love of God, what is the deal with these freaking robots? I get that everybody loves them for what they did to those spacers, but I gotta be honest, they've gone from saving our asses to being big fat pain in the asses. All I want to do is go to the kitchen and make myself a sandwich, and I got this machine breathing exhaust in my face, asking if I had permission to leave my quarters. I got your permission right here, circuit brain, and if you try to boss me around again, I'll slam it right through your glass eye. Sounds like Devin's definitely had enough of these robots. Let's check around, see what else we find. Looks like we're going to go into the cockpit here. This will probably be the last bit of lore on this particular ship. And here we see Captain Petrus, who has lost his life. Let's check out the computer terminal here, and read these log entries. First one is entitled Security Robots. The crew's always getting on my ass for being cheap. I don't like the tip. I've been wearing the same jacket for the past 6 years, and my ship hasn't seen an upgrade since the Colony War. So yeah, I don't like to spend more than I have to. And there's bargains to be found everywhere if you know where to look. When I got a tip about robots being decommissioned by the UC, I scooped them up from the junkyard and brought them back online. The crew thinks I'm too stingy to pay for mercs, but I've had awful luck with the Ecliptic, and I can't afford new Model A's. The other option is to have no security at all, but most of us aren't combat trained, and that would be a death warrant. We aren't equipped to fight zealots, pirates, and all the other threats out there in space. These robots are. Alright, so now we know the captain's a cheapskate. Let's read the next. Spacer attack. They jumped into orbit and had our grav down before we knew what hit us. These weren't just any spacers. They were professionals. One thing they didn't count on, though, was our numbers. Only 3 of them bothered to board, and when they did, they made an entire squadron of ex-military robots ready to hold the line. Anyone who doubted whether these old refurbished machines could do the job isn't saying anything now. Would it be out of line to say I told you so? No need, I guess. But I might tell them a cred saved is a life saved, because had we splurged on some fancy ecliptic mercenary, it wouldn't have been enough. Alright, the next entry is entitled, The Crew is Jealous of the Robots. I've got crew members claiming the robots are glitching, but they seem fine to me. Just a little jumpy. I mean, can you blame them? As for the facial recognition, I think it has more to do with the crew's hygiene than any failure on the robot's part. Barkley looks more like a hobo than an engineer. May wants a robotics specialist at drone to look into it, but I can't imagine that would be cheap. We need to prioritize the ship repairs. Given the damage to the grav drive and the shields, any robot maintenance would blow us way past our budget. Alright, Captain Cheapo has spoken. The last entry is called Dead Crewman. We're in trouble. Barkley assaulted a robot, and it not only killed him, it turned the whole group aggressive. The machines have flagged the entire crew as hostile, and now every single one of us is a target. Using the intercom, I instructed the crew to stay in their quarters until we can find a way to disable them. May is trying a remote hack in hopes of finding a kill switch, but I don't know if we have time. I can already hear them marching toward the door. Sounds like the crew of the Nebula had a very bad day and some major technical difficulties. But anyway, that's, sometimes these ships have some loot on them. You can roam around and find out. These derelict ships are not ships that you can claim and use. I typically scuttle them when I'm done, but what you do with them is up to you. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.